I've thought about this a lot, and I'm going to confess for a minute that I'm fairly old-fashioned. Cliff and I have two grandchildren, Maggie, who will be 10 in October, and Robert, who's now 8. And one of the tests I have for public policy is what kind of world do I want them to inherit? And if you said to me, would I be comfortable with my granddaughter becoming a drug addict, the answer is no. And I don't care what the intellectual, sophisticated arguments are, I can't imagine any circumstance where I want her on heroin. I can't imagine any circumstance where I want her on cocaine. And because I don't want her to end up on those two, I can't imagine any circumstance where I would think it was funny or amusing if she was using marijuana. Because we know that there's a process of breaking down inhibition that leads to experimentation in a way that's very, very dangerous. We also know, and this is one of the great challenges for the people who are for legalization, we do a lot of work at the Center for Health Transformation and Brain Science. I had the opportunity 2 years ago to address the National Association of Neuroscientists, which is a group that now has some 35,000 members. And the day I was with them in San Diego, we had about 4,000 neuroscientists in the audience. We have a very large project on Alzheimer's, which we are working on at the center, which Justice Sandra Day O'Connor and the former Democratic Senator Bob Kerrey are part of. And in the process of talking with brain scientists, it is increasing, we have increasing knowledge because only in the last 10 or 12 years have we been able to actually monitor brains while they're alive. I mean, prior to that, everything we did was guesswork based on looking at dead brains, which are not particularly all that useful, or looking at very unusual circumstances, like somebody who's been in a car wreck. But now we're able to actually take a totally healthy brain and rig it up and watch it in real time with very sophisticated scanning devices. When you do that and you look at the work that's being done in neuroscience, it's fairly clear that marijuana is not benign. That marijuana, in fact, has a significant medical impact on you that is negative. Now, this is not an argument for bizarre reasons that the news media or the entertainment industry wants to get into, because it doesn't allow them to live the lives they want to live. It doesn't make them comfortable. But it's an argument we have to have as a society, because we have to, if we're going to talk honestly and seriously about health and about health care, one of the ground rules ought to be, try not to make yourself unhealthy. And that's true. We have a project on diabetes and obesity where, for example, we favor K through 12 physical education 5 days a week because we think young people ought to be physically active enough not to get diabetes. Well, if I don't want you to get diabetes, I also frankly don't want you to do damage to your own brain. And so I think we ought to have an honest conversation about the impact of using illegal drugs literally on you as an individual, or on your child or your grandchild. Now, why does all this matter? I think that the three major goals of this country are safety, prosperity, and freedom. And I think that drug addiction affects all three. Let me start with freedom. When you go and you look at the experiments in legal hard drugs, you look at the Zurich experiment, you look at Amsterdam, the first thing that hits you is the people who are really hardline addicts are not free. They are totally dependent. They're relying on other people to take care of them. Well, that's not freedom. Freedom is when you're able to be self-reliant, you're able to solve your problems, you're able to work with your neighbors. You know, the classic model, I was born in Pennsylvania, in central Pennsylvania, near the Amish country. And the classic model of being able to raise a barn required the entire community to be able to work on the barn. And if 10 or 15 or 20% of your community couldn't show up because they didn't feel like it that day because it was time to go and relax and really enjoy life, or they weren't able to come because they were addicts and no longer could actually do the work, the whole fabric of the community breaks down. Which is why when you go see the Amish or you see the Mennonites, you have virtually no drug use, because it's antithetical to their entire way of life. It violates the norms that make them who they are. Well, similarly, if we believe that we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, drug addiction is an inherent assault on being American. And you can argue in a socialist state where you have no responsibilities and somebody, whoever they are, is going to pay for you. It doesn't matter if you're a drug addict because it's not really your responsibility anyway. But if you believe in a free society, the slogan of New Hampshire, which is live free or die, you know, it isn't live free or be happily addicted. And so there's a very fundamental core question: can you in fact sustain a free society if you have a very substantial amount of drug addiction? And I think when you look at the most addicted neighborhoods in America and the places that have the most drugs, it's really pretty sobering, because those are also the places that are the poorest, have the fewest opportunities, produce the fewest entrepreneurs, create the least wealth. And so it's a very sobering contemplation about the degree to which we have tolerated addiction in a way which has actually hurt the poorest of Americans by making it relatively easier for them to make modest amount of money selling drugs on the street, but in the process ending up destroying their lives. Second, the trip that Cliff and I just took to China and Japan and Korea. It was fascinating to me. I've been in China 3 times now, going back to 1997. This is the first trip I've taken to China where no one on the Chinese side raised the issue of Taiwan. No one said we have this problem. In every meeting, and we were in a lot of meetings. In fact, there was, on occasion, I thought Cliff was going to shoot me if we added 2 more meetings to because they really wanted to talk with us. And they see America's changing, the economy's changing, what does it all mean? They're having challenges. They will produce 24 million new workers this year. Only 12 million of them will have new jobs. And so they're really faced with tremendous challenges of creating enough economic activity and enough employment. Everywhere we went, they wanted to talk about jobs. Everywhere we went, they wanted to talk about investment. They wanted to say, no, we go out and see, we were up in northeast China, in places like Shenyang and Jilin City, and Changchun. And as we go to these places, they say, we have a brand new factory coming in, we have some great opportunities, we're going to have a brand new ski place for people to come and relax. You know, do you know of any American company that'd like to come and invest? And it's all about how do you create jobs. And what I was struck with was, how are our children and grandchildren going to compete with India and China if they can't focus, if they don't have energy? And it strikes me that a drug-addicted country is not very long going to be a successful country. We have been the most successful country in the world, at least since the 1840s and 1850s. We won the First World War, the Second World War, and the Cold War because we had the largest economy on the planet. And we currently project power worldwide because we still have the largest economy on the planet. But that's not going to be true 30 or 40 years from now if we fail to keep our act together. And we're up against competitors who have 1.3 billion and 1 billion people, and they're willing to work hard. And they're very clear about this. If any of you have any doubt, there's a terrific movie called 2 Million Minutes, which was done by a health entrepreneur named Bob Compton. And 2 Million Minutes is 4 years of high school. And he takes 2 Indian high school students, 2 Chinese high school students, and 2 American high school students. And he shows you 4 years. And at the end of the movie, you realize we're a country that is actively preparing for the 1956 Olympics.